What's up, y'all? I hope y'all are doing good. And tonight, better said, we're back with some more true crime slash scary slash creepy slash uh random slash TikToks. So, with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoy, and if you do, make sure you let me know so I can make some more. And let's get right into it.
Years in prison, but don't you dare feel bad for her. This woman's name is Brandy Worley. She had a husband and also is the mother of 2 kids. But another thing is, she was cheating on her husband and her husband had finally had enough. He told her that he was gonna divorce her, and she knew that if they got divorced, her husband would get full custody of their children because of her infidelity. This was something Brandy could not fathom. So she did the unthinkable. One night, after her husband was already sleeping in the basement, she snuck into her kids' rooms and cut their throats. And then she stabbed herself in the neck and called 911 and told them exactly what she did. When the police got there, the children were both dead, but Brandy was still alive. And they took her to a hospital and saved her life so she could stand trial. And in 2018, Brandy was sentenced to 120 years in prison.
That's it. I don't know. It's like, do we save her life? Do we let her die? Or do we save her life and throw her in jail for life? I think, honestly, they might have did the right thing, to be honest. Because, yeah, they did the right thing.
In an act of vigilante justice, this woman killed the man who murdered her daughter in the middle of his trial. Growing up, Mary Ann Bachmeyer did not have it easy. She had placed 2 babies up for adoption by the age of 18. So by the time her 3rd daughter, Anna, was born in 1973, she was ready to start over. She raised Anna as a single mom in Lübeck, Germany, and did everything she could to make her feel happy and loved. But on May 5th, 1980, when Anna was 7 years old, she skipped school after getting into a fight with her mom. She was then abducted by her neighbor, 35-year-old Klaus Grabowski, who was a convicted sex offender. Klaus had previously been arrested for sexually assaulting 2 other young girls and was voluntarily castrated in 1976, which was reportedly common back then in Germany to prevent offenders from reoffending. However, Klaus later underwent hormone therapy to try and reverse it, and this is important to remember. After abducting Anna, Klaus held her captive for several hours, reportedly sexually assaulted her, and eventually strangled her to death with a pair of his fiance's tights. He then put Anna into a cardboard box and left her on the bank of a canal. Klaus was arrested that night after his fiancée turned him in. After he was arrested, Klaus stated that he didn't intend to abuse her and that Anna, who was 7 years old, tried to seduce and extort him for money. He claimed to have panicked, and not wanting to go back to prison, he killed her. This obviously took a major toll on Mary Ann, whose young daughter's name was being dragged through the mud by this horrible man. So on March 6, 1981, on the 3rd day of Klaus's trial, Mary Ann snuck a .22 caliber pistol into the Lübeck District Court and shot him 7 times in the back, killing him almost instantly. Klaus's attorneys tried arguing that he'd only simply acted out due to a hormone imbalance caused by the hormone therapy after being castrated. During Mary Ann's trial for killing Klaus, a doctor who had examined her asked her for a handwriting sample in which Mary Ann wrote, quote, "I did it for you, Anna," end quote, surrounded by 7 hearts. Mary Ann was convicted of premeditated manslaughter in 1982 and sentenced to 6 years in prison, but she was later released after only serving 3. This became the most well-known case of vigilante justice in what was West Germany. In an interview 10 years later, Mary Ann stated that she shot Klaus after careful consideration and to prevent him from further spreading horrible lies about Anna. Mary Ann died on September 17th, 1996 at just 46 years old from pancreatic cancer. She was buried right next to Anna.
This video shows Kayla Brown chained up in the slave storage container of Todd Kohlhepp, the Amazon review killer. Between 2003 and 2016, he murdered at least 7 people in South Carolina, dropping several clues along the way. He left several reviews on Amazon products that he used in the killings, like this one that reads, "Keep in your car when you have to hide the bodies and left the full-size shovel at home." In 2016, Kayla and her boyfriend Charles went missing after they went to clean Todd's residence. No one heard from them for months until a post was made to Charles' Facebook page saying that he and Kayla were expecting a baby. Shortly after, an old photo of the couple was posted with the caption, "We are fine." This raised suspicions, leading police to trace these posts to a storage unit on Todd's property. There, they freed Kayla and took Todd into custody, where he bragged about burying several bodies on the property as well, including Kayla's boyfriend. He was given 7 life sentences, 1 for each of his murders, despite him confessing to many, many more.
Have you guys heard about the couple who murdered a 6-year-old little boy during a road rage incident? On May 21st, 2021, 25-year-old Marcus Aries and 23-year-old Win Lee were driving on the 55 freeway in Orange County.
Right off the bat, I already know he did it. He did it for sure. Look at his eyes, bro. Ugh. Nah, that's crazy. If you see somebody like that, if you see somebody with those eyes and they start coming at you, run them over. Run him over. Do whatever you can. Get away from him. For sure. Run his ass over. Look at his eyes.
County. That morning, Marcus and Wynn had a confrontation with Joanna Clunan, who was driving her 6-year-old son Aiden to kindergarten. It is alleged that Joanna stuck her middle finger out at Marcus and Wynn, and that's when Marcus pulled out his gun and shot at Joanna's vehicle. Aiden was sitting in his booster seat on the right rear passenger side when the bullet entered his stomach. Aiden's older sister recalls some of Aiden's final words. He said, "Mommy, my stomach hurts," and then he passed away 30 minutes later. A week later, Marcus and Wynn had another confrontation with a Tesla driver where he got angry and pulled out his gun again and threatened the driver. At this point, police were desperately looking for Marcus's white Volkswagen. When Marcus and Wynn realized that police were searching for them, they changed their appearance, hid their car, and quit their jobs. Marcus was charged with murder and faces a maximum sentence of 40 years to life in prison. Wynn was only charged for being an accessory and only faces a maximum sentence of 3 years in prison.
That's fucked up. That's fucked up. She needs to do the same amount.
After an infant boy was found dead at a McDonald's in Phoenix, Arizona. Investigators are calling her a person of interest. Security video shows her walking through the fast food restaurant, trying to open a door, and then walking back through the eating area.
Okay.
Police were called to the restaurant where they found the baby dead inside the bathroom. The baby was pronounced dead at the scene. Police said the autopsy results are still pending. Anyone with information is asked to call Silent Witness at 480-WITNESS.
Well, damn, that's fucked up.
Let's talk about the 12-year-old boy who was SA'd, tortured, and then brutally murdered by his best friend over $1.75. His name was Gabriel Kun, and he was friends with 17-year-old Daniel Petrie. Before I even continue the video, I just want to say that this is one of the worst cases I've ever come across. And if you guys decide to do some researching on your own, please beware of going to Google Images and looking at the pictures, because for some reason, authorities decided that it would be a great idea to put pictures of this boy's body dismembered, disfigured, and bloody all over the internet. Me personally, I've looked at 1,000, a billion cases even, and I've never come across something so horrifying. It's shocked into my memory, and it's not something that I want you guys to see. And if you guys don't want to take my advice or my word for it, pause to read the Reddit receipts of people saying that it's shocked into their memory for good. This is not something that you guys want to.
What did the guy say? He said, He said, I saw one of these crime scene pictures on accident many years ago. I'm not sure about now, but at the time, they were literally on the front page of Google Images. I was completely unprepared, and to this day, they are the worst thing I've ever seen. They are linked in the thread. Seriously urge you to brace yourself if you choose to look at them. That's crazy. See, that's wild. Especially, like, if it was a grown person, yeah, it'd still be fucked up. But this is a kid we're talking about. Like, how could you let that be out there on the internet? That's bizarre. That's crazy.
See, and there's no good that can come out of seeing a 12-year-old's body like that. Please. Daniel and Gabriel met on an online game called Tibia, and on this game, they became best friends, and they even would go to each other's houses and, chill with each other. So when Gabriel asked Daniel if he can borrow 20,000 Tibia coins, which would be $1.
That's weird. That is not normal. uh, a 17-year-old. Hold on. Oh, what the fuck? What was he like? 7? 7? Like a 10-year-old going to hang out with a 17-year-old? That's fucking weird, bro. That is weird. That would have been the first red flag. My son says, "Can I go hang out with a 17-year-old?" And he's like 10. I'm gonna have to whoop his ass. Cause what the fuck are y'all even doing? That's so weird, bro.
$1.75 in US currency. Daniel said okay, and he gave Gabriel the money. Gabriel was supposed to pay him back, but he never did. He ended up blocking him and just basically saying, hey, dude, I'm not going to pay you back the coins. And that upsetted Daniel so much. Before going to Gabriel's house, Daniel actually calls his mother and says, hey, can I come over? And she basically says, I'm out of town, so yeah, it's fine. And I won't be home for some hours. And that gave Daniel leeway to go to his house. And when Gabriel opened the door, Daniel immediately started to attack him. He put him in his room, and that's where he essayed him so brutally and violently, I could never explain it to you guys. And then to finish the job, he strangled him, and when he thought he was dead, to hide the body at the top of the doorway, which I don't know how he was going to do that, he decided that he needed to chop up his body. So in the middle of him cutting off Gabriel's leg, Gabriel wakes up in pain, and he's screaming, he's going crazy, and that only fueled Daniel's anger. So he went and he did it more viciously, more angrily. Investigators say that they don't know if Gabriel was awake. He definitely wasn't dead, so that's the thing. He then, after severing off his legs, both of his legs and both of his arms, he tied a rope around his torso and he tried to hang the body from the doorway. It didn't work, so he just left the body as is. And his little brother found his body. At the trial, he said F him and that he'll see him in hell to continue the job, and he had no remorse. And guess how many years he got? 3.
Huh? Nah, you can't just end it like that. You gotta elaborate, give an opinion or something. What the fuck? He did that and he got 3 years? 3 years is crazy for cutting somebody up and hanging him. Oh no, he didn't hang him, but cut him up into pieces? A child? That's, I mean, given it's not good to chop anybody up to pieces, but a little kid, bro? Nah, that's fucking insane. And 3 years is crazy. Wow.
Imagine waking up in the middle of the night to see a random stranger just watching you. Trigger warning for disturbing content. In 2005, residents of the quiet town of Cape Elizabeth, Maine, experienced a series of unsettling crimes. In August, a resident woke up to a man inside their bedroom staring at them. The man fled as soon as he was spotted, and there was nothing in the home stolen, destroyed, or otherwise moved.
That's
also, no one was harmed during this interaction whatsoever.
That's scary.
Bizarre. This just kept happening to resident after resident throughout the entire month of August. The break-ins finally stopped, only to reoccur in December and again in February. A rough sketch depicting a man in his early 20s played in the news. Many residents claimed to know the man, only to have different men named, and none of them could be connected to the break-ins. After February of 2006, the intrusion stopped altogether. They haven't happened since. The scariest thing is, this case remains unsolved till this day. This person broke into so many homes and watched people sleep, and nobody knows who it is. Tell me that's not freaky. Let me know your thoughts down below.
That's an easy way to get
Friday,
shot.
And ContentCritter.com is hosting its biggest sale ever. If you want to learn how to shoot and edit,
Yeah, that's an easy way to get shot right there. That's
This
weird.
is the story of one of the largest kidnappings to ever happen in the United States. This is just going to be an overview. If you want all of the details and the full story, go listen to the latest episode of my podcast. On July 15th, 1976, in Chowchilla, California, bus driver Ed Ray picked up a group of 26 students after they went on a summer class field trip.
Okay.
As he was on the route home, he noticed a van stopped ahead, and he tried to maneuver around it, but when he realized it wasn't moving, he came to a stop. Then, 3 armed men got out of the van and forced their way inside the bus. They then drove the bus to meet up with another van and made all of the kids jump from the bus to 2 separate reinforced vans like this one.
Holy
They then
shit.
drove the kids and Ed around, locked in the back of these vans in the sweltering summer heat for 11 hours. One of the men also abandoned the bus in a drainage ditch and covered it in debris to try to conceal it.
Okay, I mean, it sounded like human trafficking, right? But what is these? I just wonder, what are these guys' plans? Let's say they get pulled over, right? Let's say they light them up. What are they gonna do? Are you gonna try to, like, what are you gonna do? You got 30 fucking kids in the back of the truck, in the trunk type shit. You get pulled over. Now what, buddy? Now what? Fucking crazy. This is scary though. This is some scary shit. That's traumatizing. If the kids survive, hopefully.
After driving around for 11 hours, they arrived at a
Jesus.
rock quarry, which was about 100 miles away from Chowchilla. There, they forced Ed and the children to go into this underground truck trailer that they had buried 12 feet underground. Inside, they had put mattresses, some food and water, and turned the wheel wells into toilets. Once everybody was inside, they covered the top with a heavy metal object and then began piling dirt on top of it.
Wow.
And as you can see, the roof started caving in. Ed was doing everything he could to keep the younger children calm, some of which who were just 5 years old.
Oh my
After about
God.
12 hours, Ed realized that they needed to do something to escape. So they stacked up the mattresses to reach the top. And that's when Ed, along with one of the oldest students, 14-year-old Michael, began trying to move whatever was on top of this hole. It turned out it was a manhole cover and 2 100-pound industrial batteries. Eventually, they were able to move it and were able to dig their way out. Ed then helped all of the
Really?
kids escape, and they took off looking for help in the rock quarry. Eventually, they found someone who called police, and when police arrived, the kids were so happy. They took the kids to a local jail to be able to evaluate them and give them food and water, because this was the closest place that could house all of them. And eventually, the kids were taken back to Chowchilla to reunite with their parents. Ed Ray was an absolute hero, but the only problem was they did not know where or who the kidnappers were. Eventually, they started looking into the son of the owner of the rock quarry, Frederick Woods. And they
Okay. What? Trying to process this. That guy is a fucking genius. He needs if anybody needs an award, he needs an award. Give him a Nobel Peace Prize or some shit. Like, give him $1 million. Shit. Give him 10 million. Come on now. Did he not get any type of, like, I mean, yes, it's the right thing to do, but I feel like that guy needs a check. That guy needs some money. Cause what he did is crazy. That's so smart too. Like, that's genius. That guy's a genius. Shout out to that guy.
discovered that him, along with 2
Good
of
for
his
him and the
friends,
kids.
Richard and
Good.
James Schoenfeld, had recently been arrested and paroled. They got a search warrant for Wood's property and found this document that said plan that detailed exactly what they were doing. They also found this list of all of the kids' names that the kidnappers had written down. Go to
Damn.
part 2 for an explanation of why they did this.
I don't really want to know, to be honest. That's
Have you
fucked
guys
up.
heard about the horrific story of Maddie Clifton? On November 3rd, 1998, beautiful 8-year-old Maddie Clifton went missing in her neighborhood in Jacksonville, Florida. Maddie asked her mom to go outside and play with some friends, But when she failed to come home for dinner, everybody was worried. Everyone in the neighborhood got together to search for Maddie in hopes to find her alive. 7 days later, on November 10th, Maddie's neighbor, Missy Phillips, runs across the street hysterically calling for police. Missy led police to her 14-year-old son's bedroom, and what she shows police next is super chilling. She explained to police that as she was cleaning her son's bedroom, she noticed that his waterbed was leaking, so as she pulled up his sheets, she saw Maddie's lifeless body laying in between the bed frame. Maddie's body was found partially clothed, bludgeoned with a baseball bat, and she was stabbed multiple times. Police quickly arrest Joshua Earl Phillips, and the story that he tells police is super disturbing. So he told police that Maddie came over to his house to play baseball and he accidentally hit her in the eye with the ball. Then he apparently took her into the house because she wouldn't stop crying, and as he dragged her in the house, her clothes came off. And then he hit her again with the baseball bat to get her to stop crying. So when his parents got home, he ran upstairs to check up on Maddie, and he noticed that she was still alive and moaning in pain. So instead of saving her, what does he do? He stabs her to death and shoves her in the bed frame. He slept in the same bed with her deceased body for 7 days, and he eventually got life in prison. This is what he looks like now.
What? How old was... So what was he, like 12, 13 or something? Man, I remember when I was 12 or 13, I was probably fucking jacking off or something. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these kids, man? They just, like, what the fuck is wrong with, like, the girl was probably into him too. She went over to his house to play with him, type shit. And then he beats her to death and then stabs her and puts her body in his bed. Like, what the fuck is going on, yo? Why don't you just, like, you know what I mean? Like, go ride your bike or something. Like, fuck, man. What the hell is wrong with these people? That's sad. Okay. Oh my god.
On the right, we have Margie Ranshaw, age 29, who went missing from Barrington, Michigan on May 17, 1987. And on the left, we have an unidentified person who was found in Toledo, Ohio on June 16, 1987, almost a month after.
Hey, yo, tell me that picture on the left is not the scariest thing you've ever seen in your fucking life. What? Can you imagine waking up in the middle of the night and seeing her standing there staring at you? Oh my god.
Margie went missing. I was browsing through the website for missing persons and unidentified bodies like one does, and I came across these two cases. Taking a closer look at the reconstruction compared to the missing person, I would say there's a lot of similarities between the two of them. For instances, their mouths are very similar, and also the nose shape. This is also another photo they have available of Margie, and even in this one, I think she looks very similar to the reconstruction. The last time Margie was seen was leaving in her car to get a gallon of milk. Her car was found a few weeks later in Howell, Michigan. The unidentified body was found in an alleyway behind an auto repair shop, which is close to Interstate 75, remember that. And the body was also wrapped in a pink blanket and had been deceased for several days before being found. This body was also charred/burned when they found it. Going back to the body being found by Interstate 75, this is where the body was found. This is where Margie went missing. This is Interstate 75 right here. To get from here to here, you have to take Interstate 75. As we know, Margie was 29 years old when she went missing. The unidentified body is estimated to be an adult that is pre-30, meaning they are younger than 30 years old. Even though Margie was 29, that is still considered before 30, obviously. Margie's height was also estimated to be somewhere between 5'2" to 5'6", and the estimated height for the unidentified body is 5'4" to 5'7". Going back to the maps, because I forgot to add this. The area where Margie went missing is right here, okay? And this is where her car was found, on the way to Toledo, where the unidentified body was found. Both the women were described to have blonde/strawberry hair color, and I found it interesting because on the unidentified body, it said the hair was a fine texture and only 6 to 7 inches long. Looking at the photo of Margie, it's obvious she has fine hair, but she doesn't have 6 to 7 inches long hair. Her hair's very long. But remember, the unidentified body was burned/charred, meaning it is very much possible that while Margie, if she is this unidentified body, was being burned, the hair could have been burned off as well. That is all I have to share, but could Margie possibly
That's probably
be
one of the first
Jane Doe?
things. That's probably one of the first things that got burnt, the hair, but
Let's
that's
talk
sad.
about what happened to Jerry Michael Williams. He grew up in North Tallahassee, Florida, and was a popular high school football player and the class president. He was also dating this cheerleader named Denise Morrell. When Mike wasn't hanging out with his girlfriend Denise, he was hanging out with his best friend Brian Winchester. When the three of them graduated from high school, they all attended Florida State University, which helped Mike continue his relationship with Denise and his friendship with Brian all throughout his adulthood. After they graduated from college, Denise and Mike tied the knot and officially got married on December 20th, 1994. Mike ended up getting a job as a property appraiser and was making over $200,000 a year. There was actually a joke around the office where people would say, "Oh, I wish I was married to Mike because he was just such a great husband and so romantic to Denise."
Mike
In
looks
1999,
crazy.
the couple gave birth to their first
I'm not
and
gonna
only
lie.
daughter, Ansley. At the time, the local news was doing a segment on babies born near Mother's Day, and they actually interviewed Mike and Denise.
This week. We're just totally overwhelmed. She was due Tuesday, and she would have made me wait a whole nother year for Mother's Day, so she came yesterday so I could enjoy this day today with her.
It was unbelievable. I have a whole new respect for my wife and women in general and what they go through to bring a new child, new life into.
After the birth of their daughter, Mike
You know what they say though? The eyes don't lie. They do not lie.
Mike's boss actually told Mike that he should think about amping up his life insurance policy. Mike did love to go duck hunting, and his boss felt that that was dangerous and that now he had a family and needed to think about their future. Mike agreed to this, and he reached out to his friend Brian, who was an insurance salesman, and they worked on getting a new policy set up. In the end, Mike ended up taking out a $1.75 million life insurance policy. So then, on December 16, 2000, Mike had plans to go duck hunting in the morning and told his wife Denise that he would be back by noon. Him and Denise were actually going to celebrate their anniversary, so he was just going to go hunting and then come back and begin the celebration. Some time goes by and it's now 30 minutes past noon and Mike still has not returned from his hunting trip. Denise starts to get worried, so she starts blowing up Michael's phone, but he doesn't pick up. Then she decides to call her father, and she calls Brian to see if they have heard from Mike. Neither her father or Brian have heard from Mike, but Brian says that he will go out to the lake and start searching for Mike. So Brian and a couple of other people go out to Lake Seminole and begin looking for Mike. However, there was a huge storm coming their way, so they had to call off the search and move it to the next morning. The next morning, Brian and his father go back to Lake Seminole, and that's when they find Mike's car abandoned. Then, just a couple hundred yards away, they find Mike's boat, which was also abandoned. Brian and the search party begin looking around the area near Mike's boat, and they quickly realize that it's surrounded by very large alligators. This is when people started to theorize that maybe Mike was driving his boat and he accidentally hit a stump. Then either he fell overboard and his waders quickly filled with water and he drowned, or these alligators got to him. Okay, part 2 should be up now.
I hate when they do that. Now I have to know what happened. I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't know it was gonna end like that. Somebody please let me know in the comments what happened to Mike. I have to know. I have to know. I have to know. I have to know. What happened to Mike? What the fuck? That's fucked up. That's fucked up.
The image you are seeing here is the final image ever taken of a 5-year-old girl in Wales. Hello, true crimers. This is the case of April Jones. Viewer discretion is advised. April Jones was a 5-year-old girl from Machynlleth, which is in the United Kingdom. She was described as being a very happy-go-lucky young girl. She loved to have fun and just to play with her friends. And that is exactly what she was doing on the night of October 1st, 2012. This is her home in Brynigog. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong. Where she pleaded with her mother if she could go outside and play with her friend for a little bit. Her mother said, yes, that's fine, but not for very long. So April took her little pink bicycle and brought it out front to ride a bike with her friend. This was around 7 p.m. that night. At approximately 7:29 p.m., her mother went outside to call her in, but April was nowhere to be found. Panicked, of course, she called 999 to report her daughter missing. Now, luckily, April's friend saw exactly who took her. A Land Rover would pull up alongside April as she was riding her bike, and she appeared to be having a conversation with the man inside. And then April willingly climbed inside the vehicle. The friend recognized the vehicle as the same vehicle that 2 of her school friends got into earlier. When she named the friends, the police were able to piece together the parent. And that man was 46-year-old Mark Bridger. He had 6 kids. The friend even described the man in the vehicle, and it matched his appearance. By October 2nd, 2012, the very next day, he was arrested. Police were able to catch his Land Rover driving past a CCTV camera to again establish the timeline. They then searched his home, which was this cottage, and it was about 30-ish miles away from where she was taken. The search inside his home definitely uncovered some strong evidence. In the little fire pit over there, they found very tiny bone fragments. In the bathroom, where those little green tape pieces are, they found small traces of blood. The search of the home was evident that April Jones was in fact there at some point. But Mark Bridger did a very good job, unfortunately, of covering his tracks and hiding her body. Police believe that this was a premeditated attack, but April was not the target. No one really was the target, it was just who was there at the time he drove by. So she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. They believe he took her to the cottage where he sexually assaulted her, likely smothered her, dismembered her, and disposed of her throughout the area. She has never been recovered. His computer also showed very disturbing images. He would be convicted of the murder, and he was sentenced to life without parole.
Have you guys heard of the tragic case of 19-year-old Armina Hayat? Armina was 19 years old when she was found deceased in a tub full of acid in Sydney, Australia on January 30th, 2022. She was in her second year of university pursuing her studies in medicine and looking forward to becoming a surgeon. Armina met 20-year-old Miraj Safar and they started a relationship pretty quickly. Armina's parents did not approve of Miraj from the very beginning. Deceased in a tub full of acid in Sydney, Australia on January 30th, 2022. She was in her second year of university pursuing her studies in medicine and looking forward to becoming a surgeon. Armina met 20-year-old Miraj Safar and
Big neck ass, long neck ass, giraffe looking ass, boy. I already know he probably killed her, so I'm gonna get on his ass. Big arm ass, looking like goddamn Vin Diesel with the fucking small ass head, long ass neck, ugly ass boy. My bad. I just had to roast him because I already know he did some foul shit. I already know. Seen too many of these. I know how it goes. He killed her.
And they started a relationship pretty quickly. Armina's parents did not approve of Miraj from the very beginning, but despite their feelings towards Miraj, Armina decided to get married with him and move in together. As soon as the couple moved in together, Armina's parents lost all contact with her. Armina's parents became extremely worried about her, so on Sunday, January 30th, 2022, they contacted police and asked them if they can go to Armina's apartment and check up on her. What police found would haunt them for the rest of their lives. They found Armina's body laying and dissolving in a pool of acid in her bathtub. Mirage was nowhere to be found, but then he was caught on surveillance fleeing the scene. He eventually turned himself in and was charged with murder. Armina's parents were extremely heartbroken, and they were not able to give their daughter a traditional Bangladesh funeral because the only body part that remained intact was her leg. Mirage will be in court on April 5th, 2022.
God, that's fucking horrible. Who the fuck is this guy? I'm gonna knock his ass out. Nah, that's wild. Like, the fact that she was actually in love with him, she even left her family for him, married the motherfucker, and then he kills her and throws her in a tub of acid. Like, bro, what? What is wrong? "17 years."
Let's talk about Elizabeth Salgado and this penny that could be the key to solving her case. Elizabeth Elena Laguna Salgado was a 26-year-old girl from Chiapas, Mexico. Elizabeth was an honor student and a very active member of the LDS Church. After graduating from college, she told her family she wanted to move to the United States to learn English, get better opportunities, and also spread her Mormon faith. At the time, Elizabeth's mom, Libertad, had 2 brothers living in Provo, Utah. So she told Elizabeth, listen, go to Utah so at least you have some family nearby in case you need anything. So in March of 2015, Elizabeth got a student visa, enrolled herself at this school, and moved to these apartments in Provo, Utah. At first, she kind of struggled to make friends since she didn't really know English. However, once she joined the LDS Church in Utah, there was a lot of people there that spoke Spanish, so she quickly started to make new friends. Got really close to this guy named Mackie Smith, who said Elizabeth was really pretty, and anytime they would go out, she would always get hit on by every single guy, but that she would always say no because she wanted to focus on her faith and on her studies, and he says that Elizabeth was just a really kind and caring person. So then on Thursday, April 16, 2015, Elizabeth finished school at around 1:30 p.m. and began the 30-minute walk back to her apartment. Since Elizabeth didn't have a car, she asked her Uncle Rudy if he could pick her up at 5 p.m. to take her to Walmart and get some groceries. As Elizabeth was walking home, one of her sisters texted her and asked her, "What are you doing?" Elizabeth replied and said, "I already left school," which her sister thought was really weird. Elizabeth was never that short with her text messages, so her sister thought it was weird and texted her again, but this time Elizabeth did not reply. The family thought it was a little weird that she hadn't replied, but they just assumed that her phone had died. So then 5 p.m. rolls around and Rudy shows up at Elizabeth's apartment to pick her up. He sends her a text message letting her know he's outside, but she doesn't reply. After a few minutes of waiting, he knocks on the apartment door but doesn't get a response. He just assumes that maybe Elizabeth walked to Walmart instead and didn't let him know, so then he heads over to Walmart to see if he can find her. So Rudy arrives to Walmart and goes through every single aisle looking for Elizabeth but doesn't see her. Now he's thinking that maybe Elizabeth got called into work and that's why she didn't show up. So then he drives over to the Mexican restaurant where Elizabeth works at and she's not there. He thought this was a little bit weird but figured maybe Elizabeth had made plans with someone else and forgot to tell him, so he decided to just go home. So the next morning, Elizabeth's family wakes up and they expect to find a lot of messages from Elizabeth saying, "Sorry, my phone died, that's why I didn't call you yesterday." However, when they woke up, they had no messages or calls from Elizabeth. Libertad is freaking out at this point and she calls her brother Rudy and tells him to go check on Elizabeth. So he goes over to Elizabeth's school to see if she's there, but she isn't. So then he goes over to Elizabeth's apartment and her roommates answer the door. They tell Rudy that they haven't seen Elizabeth since yesterday morning, which means that after Elizabeth left school and started walking home, she never made it to her apartment. Then they call Elizabeth's job and they tell them that Elizabeth never showed up for her shift. That's when
What's crazy to me is the fact that she came from another country that obviously doesn't have the same safety. You know, it's not as safe to be in the streets and all this stuff. And she came over here for a better life, you know, for the opportunities and thinking that she would be safe, especially on the streets, right? It's sad,
the
man.
family decided to call the police department and report Elizabeth as missing. A couple of students say that they did see her on her walk back to her apartment, but then she just vanished. Okay, part 2 is up now.
Yeah, fuck your part 2. Brutal. They always say the United States is the, you know, it's the number one, it's the first world country, whatever, woot-de-woot. And people really, really underestimate the fact that there is some fucking lunatics in this country. Just like every other country, but here the thing is, most of the time you get caught. If you're a psychopath and you kill people, most of the time you'll get caught. But that doesn't change the fact that people still do that shit. It's crazy. You really gotta just be careful, be mindful of those things for real. But anyways, I hope y'all learned something today from my video. And yeah, hope y'all enjoyed. Let me know if you enjoy this series, and y'all have a good night. Peace.